Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to continue with my discussion, or my reading, and then commentary on the Beatitudes. So let me begin at the beginning, and then I will stop with the last Beatitude that I read and talk about it a little bit, Lord willing. Matthew chapter 5, I'm reading from the Caboris manuscript, an ancient text that was found written in Aramaic, the language that Jesus spoke, painstakingly translated into English to try to maintain the same sense as the words had at the time that Jesus spoke such words. Matthew chapter 5. When Jesus saw the crowds, he ascended the mount, and when he was seated, his disciples drew near. He began speaking and teaching them, saying, "A heavenly attitude is theirs, those whose home is in the Spirit. Theirs is a heavenly state. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those mourning their wrongs. They shall be comforted. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those with humility. They will gain the earth. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those who hunger and thirst for justness. They shall attain it. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those whose love is without conditions. They will therefore receive unconditional love. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those without faults in their minds. They will see God." Okay, so the last one is the one we're going to talk about today. You notice the translation's a little different than what you're used to. Well, that's good. And for sure, the Aramaic, conveys something different than what we're used to. So let's read the last Beatitude again. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those without fault in their minds. They will see God. Okay? Those without fault in their minds. Paul once said something very interesting. He said something about making every thought captive to Christ. Okay? Every thought captive. Now, let me see if I can lay a little bit of groundwork for you. Okay, first of all, souls are always growing. Okay? And so you're either getting better or you're getting worse. As a person, you're a real person. See, you have this body that you drag around, okay? But the real you is your soul. You're a soul in a body. Okay? A hand in a hand, a foot in a foot. Okay? You're a soul in a body. And somehow this body was gathered together around the soul. And the soul grows. Okay? So as we go through life, we're supposed to be gaining character, not losing it. See, when you see people, when they become 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, a lot of times you see them gradually lose character. Once upon a time they had ideals. Now they don't have ideals anymore. Once upon a time they cared about justice. Now they don't care about justice anymore. Once upon a time they would not have stolen anything, but now they steal very easily. Maybe little things, but they steal. See? And then you sometimes see a meanness, a resentment in them. See? A selfishness. An interest in a pursuit of trivial things. See? When people get older, they're supposed to become great. Didn't they call Gandhi? They called him a great soul. Okay? Well, that's the way we're supposed to be. When we have white hair, we're supposed to have a great soul. And men should have wisdom. See, and ladies too. But but especially men. What is a man without wisdom? Well, a young man can have ideals and a zest and a keen sense of justice um, and also be industrious and, things like that, of course. But as he gets older, then he should begin to develop wisdom, tact, poise, patience, love, more and more. Okay? So if you're not becoming better, if you're becoming bitter, as one man said so well, if you're not growing in character, then you're losing character. See, many moments in life involve going one way or the other. So there you are, and there's a piece of chocolate, an extra piece of chocolate. Okay? So, let's say you've already had chocolate. You're not hungry anymore. See, but do you reach for it anyway and eat it? Or do you let it go? Someone does something that could be construed as being a little bit rude, let's say, or a little bit thoughtless. Not a big thing, but it could be construed that way. So do you overlook? Do you graciously overlook without censure and without judgment? Or do you secretly judge them? Secretly hate them? Secretly look down upon them? Puff up? See? Your child comes to you with a question. Do you respond with patience? Or are you impatient? Try to get it over with so you can go back to something else. So every little moment where you could spend $1, save a penny, or spend a penny or save a penny, where you could be gracious or whether you could be impatient, whether you could be kind or whether you could be selfish. See? Whether you could see all of these moments. And even in the mind. See? Even in your mind. See it in your mind. You can either indulge a thought or stand back from it. Okay? Which we'll get into that more later. But let's say a thought comes along that's not so good. A judgment of someone. So there's a judgment, a mean judgment, an angry judgment, resentful judgment of someone. In your mind, there it is. Maybe with words, with feeling and words. So do you indulge it? See, because it serves your ego, your pride, your kingly ego, or do you stand back from it? See, and let it pass? See, a lot of moments you could let pass, and then you would be safe. But now here's the thing I wanted to say. In those moments, see, there are many of them. There are many every day. See, in a lifetime, there's probably millions of them. Each of those little moments, you either grow in character or you lose a little bit of character. See, you go one way, you grow in character. You develop a little bit more strength. See, a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more grace. Or you lose a little bit. So after a lifetime of giving in to indulge yourself, to giving into anger, judgment, gossip, something you don't really need, spending money, see, saying something mean where you could have said nothing. Or also moments when you should say something, but instead you clam up because you're afraid of losing, because you want to be a people pleaser. You're afraid of losing their approval. You're afraid of rocking the boat. You're afraid of losing the perks, see. So you say nothing when you should have said something, okay? So in each of those moments, you either gain character or you lose character. When it's all said and done, and when you reach when you reach that moment when you drop the body, then whatever you are the sum total of your whole life. See, at that moment, at the moment that you drop the body, that's what you are. See? So if you've been steadily losing character, then with what will you resist some temptation that might come along just after that. See, you have to develop character. Okay, and in all of those little moments. Well, now you see why I'm always emphasizing the meditation. Not very many people get it. See, people don't see the value in it. They don't see the value to their ego. If I said, yeah, here's something where you can get free tickets to a concert, why people would be lined up for it. Or here's a way to get a, front row seat to some event, why they'd be lined up for it. Or here's a way to impress people and get whatever you want, why they would be lined up for it. If I was a good liar and credible as a liar, a seducer, but I have a meditation, so people see, they don't see the benefit. But the benefit of it is that you practice standing back from thoughts and emotions. Okay? You learn the art of standing back. Instead of being lost in the emotion, lost in the thought, you learn to stand back. And it's good, very good practice. See? Instead of rushing, so then when you go out in the world, instead of rushing to judgment, instead of immediately leaping, see, to at something somebody does that's not, that you could be interpreted as not being quite, right. Instead of leaping to immediately judge them, see, to serve your ego, pride, you reserve judgment. You may see the error, if there is an error. See, most people become so judgmental that they read error when there isn't any. See, but let's say there is. Well, okay, you can discern the error, but without adding a pinch of resentment and judgment to it. See, that's the difference between judgment and discernment. Discernment is okay. That's innocent, just to see what there is. That's innocent. Just like little kids. Little kid says, why is my aunt so mean? The parent says, well, your aunt is not mean. Why, your aunt is a wonderful person. And the little child sees that the aunt is mean. Maybe when mom is gone, parents are gone, then the child is alone with the aunt, and all of a sudden the aunt is mean, see? So the child sees what it sees, but that's innocent. Okay? He just sees it, that's all. Well, that's where you need to be. Like a little child, you just see what you see. Okay? Never mind what other people say. You see it, and that's what you see. That's innocent. Nothing wrong with that. But if you add a pinch of judgment to it, or resentment to it, then you will feel guilty. See? Because it builds your ego. Well, okay, so now, there's something magical about walking in the light. About living in God's light. Where you learn to stand back from. Christ said to be in the world, but not of the world. Okay? So you begin to stand back from things. Okay? You're not so involved in your thoughts anymore. When you do start finding yourself excessively involved, see, whenever you get excessively involved in your thoughts, a lot of times it's because of some temptation. There's some temptation there. Tempting you to want to make yourself look good. See, to rearrange the past so you look good. Or tempting you to take advantage in some way. Or tempting you to be angry at someone or judgmental. See, to build yourself up. Often there's temptation. Or to escape. See, when you go out in life and you fail, in these moments where you could have been patient, you're impatient. Where you could have saved a penny, then you spent a penny. Where you could have overlooked something, you leap to judgment. See, and indulge yourself. So all of these moments of failure, okay, then eventually you don't want to see it. You don't want to see the failure. Because if you stand back and look at them, you'll see the failure. And if you don't want to see it, if you're unwilling to admit the truth, then thoughts themselves become a temptation to escape. Because your thoughts entertain you. See, they pull you away from reality, from the presence, where you can hide in daydreams and fantasies and illusions. And see what I mean? So, You need to be able to stand back from all those things. Stand back and see them objectively. Now, when you look at something objectively, let's say, it's the idea of like, say, a thought of a pink elephant. If you stare at that thought, it dissolves. Because it's just an illusion. It's not a real thing. Stare at it and it dissolves away. Okay? So when you stare at the thought, if it's an improper thought, why, it'll just dissolve away. And if there's something behind the thought, see, it's more than just a thought. If it's coming from Never Never Land, see, well then maybe it'll persist. See, because it's used to having its way with you. It knows that you've been tempted in that regard. See, it knows your weaknesses. Okay? If you just stand back and observe it, and it'll become a little bit painful. First of all, because you're used to indulging it. See, it's not like not eating the candy that you really want, or it's like not taking the drug, or smoking the cigarette that you really want. See, you feel a little bit of pain as your ego. What's the word? It feels withdrawal. Okay, so you feel a little bit withdrawal when you don't indulge that thought. And then if it persists, because there's something behind it more than just a simple thought, then it will continue to torment you. Maybe torment's not the right word, but it'll continue to bother you. So you just continue watching it and don't indulge it. Don't struggle with it. That's another temptation. See, it wants you to struggle with it. It wants you to give in to it, or it wants you to struggle with it. But if you just stand back, see, there's discipline in just standing back and observing until eventually it goes away. So, but when you indulge that temptation, whatever it is, see, then it gets a little hold on you. It forms a little memory, a little anagram. And there it is, and it gains a little more power. See, you become weaker. You give it some of your power, actually, is what you're doing. You're giving it some of your power. So what you need to do is just watch it. And then it'll dissolve. Eventually it will dissolve away. Then another temptation will be there. There'll always be temptations. At every level that you ascend to, there'll be temptation there. And it'll something more subtle. See, different temptation. And I won't go into all that now, but there it is. And all you have to do is see it. But do you see that every time, remember, was it Peter who said that, I forget the words that he used. He said, be glad when you fall into diverse temptations, remember, into various temptations, because the testing of your faith produces patience. See? Let patience have its perfect work. See? So when you meet temptation properly, by not indulging it, by not struggling with it, by not giving in to it, just of standing back and staring at it, you grow in character. See? So you actually use the temptation, see, to help you grow. Just like the lion tamer, the lion helps him to be a strong lion tamer. See, he needs a lion to tame in order to practice his skill. You see what I mean? Or the rodeo rider, or the person who gets horses and gets them so they can be ridden, or the ones who brand the cattle. See, why the cattle and the horses, see, provide them the opportunity to practice and to grow in strength. So temptation can be that way for you if you meet it properly. And the meditation is the key to learn the ability to stand back and observe instead of being pulled into things. And then, with each conquest, as each thought dissolves away, goes away, see, leaves you alone, is cleaned up by the light. See, you stand there, and the light does the work. You're the observer. You just observe it. You stand there and look at it, and the light will take care of it. So you actually become purified, cleaned by the light. Just the way the sunlight makes an old gym towel smell good. You hang it out on the clothesline, and a couple hours later it's fresh and sweet as can be. So you really need the light there, God's light. And that's why I'm always emphasizing the meditation. We will, Lord willing, talk about the next Beatitude in the next video.